All right, we're talking about one of the best CrossFit machines, the row. Okay, so before we even go over the mechanics of the rowing, let's talk about how you should be positioning your feet in the platforms here. Now there's a bunch of numbers going from 1 to 5. What you want to do is, I'm going to adjust mine a little bit here. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. When you're putting your foot into the straps onto the platform, you want the strap to go at about the beginning part of your shoelaces. That's kind of a neat way of figuring out like how high or where I should adjust. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's kind of a good cue for knowing where your feet should be placed and how high you should be setting the platform for your feet. Okay, so I'm strapping in here. Now, I'm going to be looking a lot in this direction because I'm rowing here, so don't think that I'm rude and I'm not looking at you guys here. But there are 3 major components on the movement of the rowing machine. But before we even talk about those 3 major components, I'm going to talk to you guys about the setup. Now, when we are setting up here, we want to grab the handles. All right, both hands on the handles. You want to try to grab your hand towards the end. We don't want it to be too close, and you definitely don't want to put your fingers inside the holes here. So you want to get your hands at a good grip, thumb around here. Now, when we are setting up here, it is important to note that our heels of our feet should stay on the platform. We do not want to be starting with our heels up and pushing through the toes here. So we want to make sure our heels are down. The other thing we want to do is we want to make sure our chest is nice and tall. We don't want to be rounding our back forward here. So our chest is nice and tall. And from here, I actually want to start with my shoulders slightly in front of my hips. And that'll be a good way to know if you're on your toes or if on your heels, because if my hips are in front, I'm probably going to have to lift my heels off the platform. All right, so a good note is heels down, chest is tall, and my shoulders are slightly in front of my hips. Now, when I'm doing this, here comes the 3 most important pieces of the row. You want to push with your legs. That's component number 1. Component number 2 is you want to slightly lean back, so your hips. And then the 3rd and final component is you want to pull towards your sternum, just underneath your chest, the handle. All right? So it goes legs, hips, and then the arms here. And on the way back, we want to go the opposite order. So we're going to go arms, hips, then our legs. I'll show it to you guys again, slow motion, legs, 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 hips slightly, arms, and then on the way back, arms, hips, legs. And I'll show it to you guys at slower speed, but slightly faster. All right. As we go faster. All right. So that is the mechanics of how we should be rowing. Again, when you're new to this, you really want to break it down in slow motion. You want to make sure you're pushing with the legs, leaning back, pulling with the arms, and then letting go of the arms first, leaning forward, and then legs here. Let's talk about the more common faults I see. The number 1 error I see is people lifting their heels off the platform and scooping their bum under them. So a lot of people try to get their bum or their seat to touch their heels. Your hips and your heels should never really come that close to each other. If you do this, then you are going to lose power on the back end of your pull, and also you're going to be working a lot of your thighs, your quads here, when really the rowing machine is mostly posterior dominant, meaning it should be your hamstrings, glutes, and back that is working the most. Okay, so that's error number one. Try not to pull your bum forward here and lift your heels. Error number two is trying to reach as far as you possibly can forward. And you can see like my back is like really rounded here, and that puts a ton of stress on your back. The rowing machine is not based on like how far can I pull forward and how far can I pull backwards here. It's really meant to be a nice rhythm, and it's meant to be a good push with the legs while maintaining tension throughout the entire time here. So that's error number two. You don't have to go all the way forward. Just go until you feel your flexibility limited, feel your hamstrings get a good pull, keep your heels down, stop there, chest tall, and then drive. The more you do this, the more you're going to understand where that pull ends for you. Third common mistake is always staying leaned back here. So a lot of times we see people go like with their legs first and they never really finish their pull, and you can see I'm kind of going over my knees every single time with the handle here. For this type of movement, you're just doing a lot of strokes and you're losing out the big end of your pull, which is your hips. Remember, you're supposed to drive with the legs, lean back, and then pull with the arms. When you get that little lean back in here, your hips introduce a lot of power to the pull. So if you're always staying leaned back, you're never actually getting that full pull or the full power from your hips. So essentially we want to be leaning forward and then leaning back at the end. And you can kind of hopefully hear the erg getting a really powerful pull. So quick recap, when we're setting up, we want our arms straight, our chest nice and tall, our heels on the platform. We want to drive with the legs, lean back with the hips slightly, pull with the arms towards your sternum. Release the arms first, lean forward, so again hips, and then from there now start bending the knees. Do it slow at the beginning to practice, and then from there you can really start to incorporate some good hard pulls. Hope this video helps, and we'll see you guys in the next one.